At the very beginning of Cynthia's piece, and we went off the air earlier this morning at about 2 o'clock, and it was the shot that we left you with. So let's come back to it. We'll see how things have changed outside of Penn Station. Live pictures now from Newscopter 7. You're looking down on the front door of Penn Station, and there are still folks slumbering right underneath the awning to Madison Square Garden and New York Penn Station. Of course, these are people that couldn't get out of the city because their trains were canceled. Train service out of Manhattan remains canceled, and as we pull this shot out wide, you will see that the vast majority of Manhattan remains without electric this morning. Now, since we last were on the air at 2 o'clock this morning, almost all of Staten Island has come back online. It looks like Staten Island is completely back with power this morning. Portions of western Brooklyn are also with power. That ranges from Sunset Park down to Bay Ridge. Southern Queens has some limited power. That includes the Rockaways. And one note here, you can see the George Washington Bridge. We just saw those lights get turned on a few minutes ago. So things are slowly coming back online, but we can't emphasize enough the slow part of this. It's almost as if it is light by light. Again, emphasizing the mayor's words, do not come to the city today unless you absolutely have to. Do not even come to work. And these pictures should serve as evidence for that, because odds are that your building does not have power this morning. One last note, we can see up in the Bronx, the same portion that had power last night still has power this morning. That's the Parkchester and Throgs Neck sections. And we also see portions of Nassau County are once again powered up. However, the vast majority of the 5 boroughs remains without power this morning, and we will stay overhead and keep you updated as either the lights come on or the sun comes up to brighten up this whole picture. We're live over Midtown. John Del Giorno, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
John, one of those cases, once again, where everyone says, remember where you were when the lights went out on the 14th of August.
Exactly.
That is such an eerie shot to see. Just so dark. Just a few lights here and there.
Yeah.
It really is very
From the
eerie.
aerial shot, as well as when I got into the city.
Oh, I know.
You had no idea how dark it really was.
And a lot of people were, you blow on the horn as you hit an intersection because you don't know if there's a car coming.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it really, I saw a couple of officers have flares out in some intersections, and yeah, it's pretty eerie.
People bringing out their chairs, their lawn chairs, and everything else. All right. Well, unlike the subways, the LIRR and Metro North, there will be some service to tell you about on New Jersey Transit for the morning rush hour.
And because that rail service will be sporadic at best, as we know, a lot of it is not up and running at all, many commuters will be depending on the ferry. Jen Maxfield joins us now in Weehawken with details. Good morning, Jen.
And good morning to you, Lisa. We're here at Port Imperial, where the first ferry will leave a little less than 2 hours from now. And this is expected to be one of the places that may actually be as busy or even busier than usual this morning, because all of the other mass transit options simply not very good this morning. If you do, in fact, decide that you need to go into New York today, driving will be extremely difficult. Limited lanes open on the GW Bridge, the Lincoln, and the Holland tunnels. New Jersey Transit buses will be running, but on a very limited schedule. Same thing with New Jersey Transit trains. And in fact, there are 4 lines on New Jersey Transit that will not be running at all. Those are the Maine, Bergen, Montclair, and Pascack Valley lines. New Jersey Transit trains running on a limited schedule, though all of them on what they're calling a reduced Saturday service. Path trains limited to running only about every half hour. Now, we can tell you in New Jersey here, the power situation is still very sporadic, very touch and go. It varies from street to street, from town to town. You never know who's going to have power and who's not. And in fact, people who live right across the street from one another, one family may have power and the other may not. But again, the first ferry will leave here in a little less than 2 hours. And before we go back to you in the studio, I just want to show you this shot here. We are standing right here on the banks of the Hudson River in Weehawken. And if we just pan over a little bit to the left there, you can see the New York City skyline. Now, granted, it is 10 after 4 in the morning. We're not expecting to see a bustling metropolis at this hour, but this is ridiculous. Very few buildings with lights on. And again, first ferry leaves in a little less than 2 hours. Lisa and Lori?
Yeah,
right.
Normally, you're right, Jen. You certainly would see it well lit
Absolutely.
up, even at this hour.
And we talked about the morning commute. And keep in mind, Metro North, LIRR, even once they get things up and running, it's going to be 6 to 8 hours before it's really moving. So, I mean,
before they can try to get back on schedule.
Exactly. So we're talking about the entire day pretty much
shot.
going to be extremely
Right.
difficult just getting around it all.
I think everybody has to have a little patience, and certainly everybody understand what's going on.
Really nothing you can do about it. Thousands of New Jersey and Long Island commuters basically had to spend the night in the city after getting stranded last night.
In fact, as we just talked about earlier, they turned the steps outside the main post office really into an urban campground. Let's go to Jim Hoffer live now on the Upper West Side with that part of the story. That was an incredible sight.
Yeah, you know, Lisa and Lori, considering what many of these commuters have been through, we're struck by how sort of calm and level-headed they've been able to stay through all of this. To get an idea of what this is, this hardship that they've been up against, take a look at these amazing pictures. This is the outside steps of the post office near Penn Station in Midtown. Many people, as you can see, using nothing more than a newspaper for their beds this evening. All of them stranded here since shortly after 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, of course, when the power went out, and that left the LIRR trains sitting idle on the rails, and many, many thousands of commuters sleeping in places that they never imagined. Now, most of them taking this all in stride, as we mentioned. However, we did speak with some commuters who are a bit upset. Of course, they've been waiting now some 12 hours to try and get home, and it's just in the past hour that we've noticed that the MTA has provided some limited bus service to try and get these folks home. So you can see we're only about 2 hours from the start of the morning rush hour, and there are thousands of folks from Long Island who haven't gotten home from yesterday evening's rush hour. It really is amazing, but a lot of them holding up pretty well, toughening it out like most New Yorkers. We can tell you, of course, that the LIRR will not have any train service in this morning's rush hour, although the New Jersey PATH trains will be running on a Saturday schedule. So that is the story out here with commuters. We're on the West Side live. Jim Hopper, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
All right, Jim, thanks so much. As Jim was talking about people toughing it out. Well, here was one way that some folks toughed it out, having a lot of fun, instant block parties. And on the Upper West Side, revelers gathered outside pubs for an impromptu unplugged sing-along. They drank beer, and belted out Pearl Jam songs, and others found refreshments inside bars that stayed open late to soothe souls. So Evans had to have written this one. A lot of S's here. To soothe souls with suds.
Hey, whatever works for you. Look at all the candles going inside the bars. Well, I'll tell you what, by this morning, it's not so fun anymore. Not at all. Let's go back to John Del Giorno, Newscopter 7, and he's checking out what's going on in our very dark city this morning. John?
Hey, but look at this, guys. This might be the magic moment. Parts of the city not so dark anymore. We had just gone off the air last time telling you that Manhattan was mostly dark. When a huge grid, it was as if somebody simply put the plug back in. What you were looking at is Midtown Manhattan. This is approximately 50th Street north up to Central Park between 5th Avenue and Broadway, and very clearly here the lights are back on just over 12 hours after they got turned off. You can see there the time, 4:17 this morning. There are some additional sections coming back online now down through the heart of Midtown Manhattan. Again, we're talking about an area between Broadway, 7th Avenue, east over to 5th Avenue, and right now the power being restored almost block by block. It's a very slow process, but the lights are on now. Again, everything is approximate here, about as far south as 50th Street. But that's the update from Newscopter 7. We just wanted to let you know a sizable portion of Midtown Manhattan is back online. We will bring you updates throughout the show and let you know what other sections of Midtown are back as we progress through this morning. And we are live over Midtown Manhattan, a newly lit Midtown Manhattan. John Del Giorno, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
And when you put it into perspective, John, it does seem like it was really a relatively short period of time to be able to do something like this.
Well, yeah, and you just can't get over the amount of power that this city takes. And when you see all these thousands of lights that, I'm looking at them right now, and all of a sudden they're all going to come back online at once, and it explains why the power company has to be so slow and get everything back online. Don't forget, these lights went off at, let's say they went off at 4 o'clock. most people probably left their offices, but how many of those light switches were left in the on position? How many computers were still on? So that when the power goes back on in these buildings, everything's going to go back on as if it was on at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
So they really have to be careful. What caught my eye when this happened was an entire office building just lit up from the bottom all the way up to the top, and that's because every office light in the building pretty much was on.
Right.
So that's the kind of situation they're going to run into. But again, this neighborhood is a mix. It's residential. You can see their condominium building. They have lights. So the good news for us, of course, guys, is that we have a few more viewers now, right?
Absolutely. Gotta love that. Thank you, John.
He's got the best seat in the house
He
because
really
he's been able
does.
to see all this stuff going back on as power is restored throughout the day. And hopefully this is just the beginning of a wave of power coming back on throughout the city.
Thanks for bringing it to us, John.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, let's go down now to Lee Goldberg with a look at the weather. And you have a lot of company out there, don't you?
You know what? Starting to get a little bit more volume out here, to tell you the truth. Yeah, I mean, folks just sort of straggling by a little bit. We're still waiting for that dramatic illumination here at 67 and Columbus. Columbus Avenue is still pitch black at this point, and we can see some of the silhouettes of some of the buildings in the background. And actually, Shannon So made a good point yesterday. Quite a night for stargazing. With the city lights not on, you can actually see Mars in the southern horizon, a little red hue to that star there, and actually a plane going by as well. So an amazing sight down here. I drove in from the Hudson Valley this morning. It was like driving through the country. I mean, you just couldn't see a thing. It was all dark. And now the volume all of a sudden getting a little heavier on Columbus Avenue, and maybe that's because some parts of the area are starting to brighten up and people are starting to pick up and starting to move a little bit more. Now, switching gears and talking about our weather situation. We are roughly, we're just under 2 hours from official sunrise. Sunrise is at 6:06 this morning. At first light, you're going to start to see a hint of the light after about 5:30 or so. So we're going to already start seeing some brightening within about an hour and 10 minutes, and then we'll start to see the sun come up. We have a relative comfort window of probably about 6-8 hours. Temperatures are in the 70s right now. On our weather computer, I have current temperatures plotted across the area, and you'll notice we're pretty high already. We're in the low and middle 70s, even some upper 70s around the city. There are a few 60s well north and west. But basically, we're not obviously warming up. We have a couple degrees more drop over the next couple of hours, and then we'll start to climb. But I'd say we have a relative 6 to 8 hours of comfort due to the humidity and the sun coming up and bringing these temperatures over 80 degrees, and then the feel-like readings close to 90. We are going to head close to the 92-degree level today. If we can advance this graphic in the control room, I do have a forecast right there, 92 degrees. We've got sunny, hot and humid weather, and we can advance this as well. It's going to be a dry day in terms of no rainfall, and that feel-like reading by about 2 or 3 o'clock this afternoon is going to be in the upper 90s toward around 100. 76 tonight, partly cloudy and about basically warm and sticky conditions, and for tomorrow 90, and it looks like there'll be some thunderstorms in the afternoon. First part of the day looks just partly sunny. A 5-day forecast is also available, and it looks like we're going to start to turn drier by the end of the weekend, slow clearing on Sunday, and then we're going to dry out as we head into Sunday afternoon, the beginning of the work week. So in terms of our weather today, obviously we're still going through our hot stretch. This very well could turn into our second heat wave of 2003 that we're experiencing right now. Today would be day 2. Tomorrow, if we hit 90, would be day 3 and establish the official heat wave. But right now outside, I mean, not that uncomfortable in a jacket just yet. That's probably going to be peeled off shortly once the sun comes up. It's going to turn a little bit more uncomfortable. And this is what we're starting to see. Livery cabs come by, and I mean, this we weren't seeing even about 20 minutes ago. The officers have been lighting up the streets with the flares around here, and, you know, I mean, you just got to take your time and take it slow this morning, and you know, you'll get to where you're going. Everybody's helping everybody out. So we're going to keep monitoring these weather conditions. We have to tell you about what's going on around the country in our next half hour as well. But for now, Lisa, Laura, back to you. That's the situation from Columbus Avenue.
All right.
You know, when he says 92, you just got to hope that by this afternoon they have got the vast majority of power restored, because that is going to be
and air conditioning is back up in so many of apartments and as well as offices. And in times like this, you also worry about the elderly and young children.
People with health problems.
Absolutely. It certainly is. Well, the power outage also, of course, impacted in New York suburbs. As much of the power was restored to Long Island by late last night.
That certainly is good news there. Lauren Glassberg has been on Long Island all night long. She's live in Westbury with more. Lauren?
Well, good morning to both of you. We're in Westbury on Old Country Road, which, if you travel through Long Island, you know this is an extremely busy stretch, and it's pretty quiet right now. But the best thing about it, there are lights. These lights came on about an hour ago, but it is still sporadic, and I'll show you why. You can see the traffic lights on one side of the street, but if we pan over and above me, you see that some of the lights are still not on. So it is pretty sporadic. We did talk to authorities here, the police in this area, Nassau County, and they tell me they've seen a couple of things, some minor accidents at intersections. They've also seen some broken glass and a couple of cases of larceny. But for the most part, the calls they've received overnight are calls of concern, and that's really a good thing considering just how dark things could have gotten. This is how the major intersections of Nassau County looked, flares and patrol cars lighting the way when traffic signals failed to.
It's about 123 primary intersections that we worry about people getting in accidents in, and they're all staffed right now. I think even past one of them. And they're pretty well lit. There are flares all over the place, and we've kind of cut off the turning lanes as well.
And while most neighborhoods were quiet, some had power restored early. Comac was one, and its restaurants were flooded.
We have no lights. Neighbors across the street have lights. We have no lights. We couldn't cook, electric stove, nothing. So I was hungry.
You came in for Chinese food. You found the one place that's open.
The one place that's open, the only place that has food.
By 2 a.m., Long Island Power Authority said 40% of its customers had power, and as the morning progressed, the power began to reappear. Oh, the lights just went on.
They did.
Look at that. They just went on. Take a look.
Traffic lights went on, even as we speak.
As we speak. Well, that's going to be good news for you guys.
That's a good sign, absolutely. Because, we have to worry about the morning, too. Rush hour is going to happen in the morning again, and hopefully by that time, a lot of the communities will have their lights back on, especially those traffic lights.
And with lights and power, beer sales were overshadowed by fuel sales. The pumps now working.
It was the most beautiful sight. I drove all the way from Plainview, and there was nothing was on.
Gas stations, a beautiful sight. Another beautiful sight, neon. I bet you never thought you'd miss the open 24-hour sign at the Majestic Diner. For a couple of hours, that sign wasn't true, and you couldn't read it because it was dark. This diner closed for a couple of hours, but it is back open. And a little later this morning, we will venture inside to see how people are dealing with the morning with electricity. For now, we're live in Westbury. Lauren Glassberg, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
You are a lucky girl. You have access to coffee.
Absolutely.
I cannot tell you how crucial that is.
Absolutely.
We are jealous. Also, out of the Red Cross is that there are a number of fires that are across the area because people are lighting candles to have some light to guide them through the hallways and the rest of their apartments and homes and whatnot. On the phone, we have Leslie Gottlieb, who is with the Red Cross, to talk about what they're dealing with and also just once again to give some good advice. Leslie, thank you for being with us.
Sure.
Talk about currently what the Red Cross is doing.
Yes, well, normally on an average day, we respond to about 8 fires. Tonight alone, we have responded so far to 28 fires. We don't know the cause of all of them, but certainly candles can be a factor, and we are urging people not to use candles, but to use flashlights.
A lot of people, they don't have flashlights. What do you tell people to do? Because sometimes people are just so desperate to get any sort of light where they are. What do you tell people?
Sure. Well, I think you need to try to borrow a flashlight or go to a neighbor. One of the things that we teach in the future is a very important class called Preparing for the Unexpected. And people need to be prepared for these kinds of emergencies. They have to have communication plans, flashlights, batteries, battery-powered radio, water, etc. So after we get through this crisis, I think for those people who weren't fully prepared, which I'm sure are many people, they need to think how they can be better prepared. We're glad to help with a free class. You can go to our website and get more information, but we need to have people plan ahead.
You're talking about the planning factor. We know how always the Red Cross is able to jump into various cases of disasters, but we've also been talking about the last time that we've had such a blackout, not to this magnitude, but it did sort of catch us off guard. How was the Red Cross able to react? What was the first mission for you on this time around?
This time, we work very closely with New York City, and when the city asks us to respond, of course we do. So the city asked us to place emergency vehicles in strategic transportation hubs like Grand Central Station and Penn Station to provide water and some snacks. We have some mental health volunteers who are able to give some comfort for those who are distraught by the situation. So we fairly soon got emergency vehicles on the ground. We've mobilized hundreds of volunteers. We have hundreds more ready to be deployed if the city asks us to do so.
All right. Leslie Gottlieb from the Red Cross joining us this morning.
Yeah.
Thank you, Leslie. We appreciate the time.
And the advice is avoid using the candles.
Right.
If you can, it's dangerous. They said 28 fires reported, so on a typical night there are about 8. Don't know the cause of those fires, but certainly a lot of people are using candles. Try and use a flashlight, borrow one, and just keep in mind that this could be a very dangerous problem.
This is one of those times when you get to know the neighbor. See
Yes,
if they have the
very
flashlight
well.
that you
Very
can't
well.
find. Now we've got Dave Evans, who's going to be talking about, of course, more of all the commuters that have been stuck in Manhattan as they try and get around it. And Dave, you're at Penn Station? Oh.
Actually, Dave Evans just has a story that he did last night on all the stuck commuters. Let's see that right now.
Early on, it wasn't so bad. Sure, the West Side Highway moved at a snail's pace, and traffic lights were out, so a lot of people simply walked. It was faster. Frustrating, yes, but no reason to panic.
No panic, no. I'm kind of hot and irritable and a little thirsty, but we'll get home.
But getting home wasn't so easy. By 6 o'clock, a crowd of 15, perhaps 20,000 demanded service at the 38th Street Ferry, and only a couple of boats were running.
We're nervous. We want to try and get home. We're from New Jersey. We're really scared right now.
The ferry system was overwhelmed. Commuters fled the PATH trains in the Lincoln and Holland tunnels, and they tried to take a ferry, but were told the boats needed electricity to pump gas. And so the frustration level here grew as commuters were starved for any kind of official information.
Well, they're telling us up there at 38th Street, the boats don't have no gas. Go down to 23rd Street. Now, we're going to get down to 23rd Street. They're going to say it's no gas down there. Come back to 38th. Why don't they tell the people what we need to know? We all want to go home.
As it grew dark, there was a growing sense of worry along the West Side Highway. Agnes Greco waited for hours to get home to Hoboken. She and her 87-year-old friend say they just couldn't walk anymore.
It's starting to get dark.
Right.
What are you going to do?
I don't know. Either try to hang out and keep calm. What else could we do?
How is your friend taking this? I mean, she's 87.
Right.
Yeah.
Worried.
So for hours, parents with young children and a few elderly who got sick in the heat simply waited and worried. Some called it a sorry state of affairs for a city that has practiced and practiced since 9/11.
They're pregnant ladies that need, water or some place to sit down. It's just been, like I said, atrocious.
At the very least, the southbound lanes of the West Side Highway are now open, but a lot of people are still waiting to get home. It could be a very long night for a lot of people in this, the blackout of 2003. On the West Side, Dave Evans, ABC7, Eyewitness News.
You know, so many people just did walk home. My cousin works at MoMA Queens. She walked to her apartment at 10th Avenue and 46. Said it took her 2 hours. But she said, after a while, I just figured I'd just keep going until I can't
She
go.
probably had company with her,
until
right?
I can't
Other
go
people,
anymore. Just
right?
keep walking. if you can
right.
do it.
If you had a destination, I was listening coming on the radio, a woman who had to get her children home. She said, listen, I can't have my kids sleep out in the street.
Absolutely.
We have to walk home.
Yeah.
Period. Stay with us. Our coverage continues in this special edition of Eyewitness News this morning, the blackout of 2003. We'll be right back.
This is the news leader, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
As power is restored to parts of our area, millions remain without electricity this morning. Our complete coverage continues.
The lights are beginning to come on in parts of Manhattan, Lori, but as you said, vast sections of the city remain in the dark. I'm N.J. Burke at That Story, a live report coming up.
12 hours into this blackout. When will it end, and what will your morning commute look like? I'm Cynthia Guab in Washington Heights, and I'll have more information coming up.
And they say the neon lights are bright on Broadway. Of course, they weren't last night. We'll show you what things look like around the city and elsewhere.
And good morning to you. I'm Lori Stokes.
And I'm Lisa Calagrassi.
Special edition of Eyewitness News this morning, of course, talking about the blackout of 2003 as we all try to cope with the situation.
I know.
And for the most part, I think a lot of people have. We just sort of went into another mode of deal with it.
Right. I mean, a lot of people got stuck in the city.
Sure.
Some people got out. And, they're just making the best of it. If they don't have central air or air conditioning units at all, come outside, meet your neighbors, hang out a little bit, and there's really nothing you can do about it.
It's frightening for those people that were probably in an elevator or some situation like that. Yeah. And miraculously, when it came to the subway, it was evacuated orderly, quickly, safely, and fortunately with no injuries.
Let's go to Newscopter 7 and John Del Giorno. We're not quite sure what we're looking at right here. Earlier, he was over Penn Station, and he was also finding some places. A spot in Midtown actually had power restored. Not quite sure what we're looking at right now. We'll try and get some information about that in just a minute. But John had reported that a pretty significant grid in Midtown had been turned on early this morning, within the past hour or so. Midtown, 50th Street, north up Central Park, about 5th Avenue and Broadway. So that certainly was promising. We were looking at Bryant Park.
Right, and understand that there are some people who have decided to camp out there as well. We've seen that in pockets throughout the city of those people who could not get home, who decided just to lay down whatever they had, their duffel bag, and use it as a pillow, and wait it out. Look at that.
Lee Goldberg, I don't think these people have ever looked forward to a sunrise more than today.
6:06.
That's when it's coming, huh?
Counting the minutes.
6:06. It'll be here, just over, an hour and a half away here. And we're going to start seeing first light sometime around 5:30 is when we'll start getting a hint of light. Central Park temperatures in the mid-70s right now. It is a little sticky out here, but certainly it's a lot more bearable than it will be in another 6 to 8 hours when things really start to warm up. Our temperatures across the area range anywhere from the upper 60s to upper 70s right now. The humidity is definitely on the moderate side. And again, that sunrise 6:06, we'll keep repeating it. Let's look at the AccuPlanner because I have a breakdown for you of how the heat index will react as we go through the day. Now, it is going to be a humid day. I mean, it's not the humidity that we had the last 2 weeks, but the fact is now we've been baking in this now since last night, and it will feel very sticky. So the 88-degree temperature at noontime will feel like 93. And as we go through the afternoon hours, the high in the low 90s will likely feel like upper 90s, and probably across interior New Jersey will feel more like 100 degrees. So hopefully we can continue to see the power come up gradually, and we can get the ACs cranked up. Obviously, we don't want to just power it up fast, as we've been told, but we're going to be needing that today as we go through day 2 of pretty high heat. This is going to be our second heat wave of 2003 if we can hit that 90-degree temperature tomorrow. But we have some warm and humid air that will take us right through about Saturday evening, and then some relief arrives. We're right on Columbus Avenue here outside our Upper West Side studios. Obviously still pitch black out here. We have a 3/4 moon and a little bit of haze, and that's trying to illuminate things a little bit. And again, it's a little very sticky out here. So our temperatures will be climbing above 80 probably after 9 o'clock. That's probably when it starts to get more uncomfortable. But once again, that key time, Lisa and Laurie, 6:06. We're all waiting anxiously. Back to you.
Indeed we are. And also the key time when that 92 mark comes along as well.
No question.
All right, Lee, thank you.
You bet.
Joining us now on the phone is Paul Florangis. He's with the Transit Authority. We've been talking about this all evening and all morning, Paul. Basically, no subway service. That's still the case?
No subway service. We don't have any electricity in the system, and it'll take us between 6 and 8 hours, probably longer now, to check out the system, make sure all our switches are working, all our signals are working, get the trains powered up, get them moving again. So it will take a while for us to get back up to speed once we get power back.
And even, Paul, as you're speaking, we're showing video from yesterday. What really seemed like a very orderly evacuation. Did it surprise you at all?
Not really. I mean, our people are trained. We have procedures in place and policies in place to deal with emergency situations. I mean, you don't really plan for a total blackout, but I think under the circumstances, I think we did an excellent job. We had an initial problem where when it happened in the building, I was in my office, the computer went dark, and I walked out in the hallway, the emergency lights came on. When the train operators out there realized that they had no signals in front of them, they called in almost simultaneously, and the command center was overwhelmed momentarily until they got people to take a step back and figure out what was going on, and then we commenced, evacuating people, within, 20 minutes or so once we realized that it wasn't coming back anytime soon.
Not to mention that the commuters also aided in that as well.
I guess so. I really have no reports of that, but I think people pretty much hung together. They listened to the announcements. We do go to battery power in these emergency situations. The crew was able to talk to commuters. There was, minor lighting. on the trains, and I think, between our supervisors, our managers, our train crews, and the police and fire, we were able to safely evacuate people first and foremost from under the tubes and on bridges, and then the rest of the system, without any reports of injuries that we have here. There could be some reports elsewhere, but we haven't heard of any injuries to our customers. I think we had one employee who might have twisted an ankle, but basically, for a system as vast as we are, for having almost 400 trains out in the system and about probably 400,000 riders, we did a pretty good job.
400,000 riders, that is a staggering number. What about bus service today?
What we're doing with bus service, we run a lot of bus service, as you know, into subway terminals, like Parsons Archer and Jamaica, Main Street in Flushing, the Hub up in the Bronx. With no subway service, it doesn't really make sense, in our opinion, to run service there if people can't get a subway. So what we've done is we've prioritized about 63 different routes in the 5 boroughs. Those routes represent about a quarter of our routes and about a half of our daily ridership. What we're doing there is focusing on those to get people in Manhattan, for instance, north and south, as opposed to east and west, as much as we can, and providing some limited express bus service into Manhattan, in Queens, and Brooklyn, and Staten Island, but it's nowhere near our daily ridership levels. It's about half our daily ridership and about a quarter of our buses. So we're just trying to provide some service, but if people can stay home, it's the best thing to do, because we can no way mimic subway service with bus service.
And best case scenario comes over the weekend, I would imagine, for the subway system.
It's unclear as to what as to when we get power. If we get power at some point this morning, it's going to take those 6 to 8, maybe even 9 hours. So by Saturday, hopefully everything will be full. But hopefully, sometime tonight, that would be the optimal.
All right, Paul Floranges, thanks as always with the Transit Authority, updating us on the situation there. Once again, no subway service, some limited bus service today. Paul, I'm sure we'll be checking in with you throughout the day. Thanks so much.
That's right. Okay, we have Joe Nolan now, Metro Traffic, on the telephone with us to talk about this. Hey, were you on vacation, Joe?
Sure was.
Okay, no longer.
Not anymore.
Not
you
anymore.
got work to do, my friend.
Yeah, that's right. Back to work.
What's going on?
Well, I tell you, I'm kind of surprised that things are in as good shape as they are. I mean, we have pretty much Lower East River crossings and the East River crossings are all pretty much open coming inbound. The Lincoln Tunnel at this point still is going to be shut down inbound. Outbound, though, there are 2 lanes available to you. The George Washington Bridge, the upper level, is open both ways. If you're traveling at the Holland Tunnel, the inbound side has 1 lane open. Outbound apparently is completely open. The couple of things you do need to know, though, this morning, and you guys have been saying this already, if you're heading to the airports, call your airlines for individual flight information. That's the George Washington Bridge you're looking at now, and obviously it's fully lit up. So that is good news as you begin to travel around. You know what, though, guys? One of the things about today is, first of all, alternate side is suspended. It was going to be anyway, which is a break, but alternate side is suspended. But the next 2 weeks are the two biggest vacation weeks of the year, the last 2 weeks in August, the prior to Labor Day. Today's rush hour would have been one of the lightest morning rush hours of the year anyway.
Right.
And as a result of that, we may be cutting a break as to exactly when this happened, because this would have been a very light morning rush hour. Once 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon gets go, usually is when you started to get a lot of heavy traffic heading out of the city. That's, I believe, getting up towards the Bronx, I think, as you're looking at now. But again, where we are over here in New Jersey, all the lights are on, and the air conditioning works, and everything seems to be operating properly. But we're just going to have to wait and see as the morning progresses. Like, for instance, the Garden State Parkway had suspended the tolls. Now we're trying to find out if they've got them back up and operating properly or normally. So, there's a lot of things that are happening, and we're just going to have to wait and see. But right now, traffic volume is virtually zero. There are no delays pretty much everywhere. And again, the big thing this morning is if you're going to be heading out, mass transit is pretty much not operating, more or less. I mean, there are going to be some trains. The Garden State Parkway, like I said, they've suspended the tolls. The bridges and tunnels, the only one really that's shut is going to be the Lincoln Tunnel coming inbound. Everybody else seems to be in pretty good shape. And I'm trying to figure out what John is showing us. That looks like that might be the Triborough Bridge. Thank you. That is the Triborough Bridge.
Got the nod.
Yeah, I got the nod. That's the Triborough Bridge coming in and outbound. So again, you can see all the toll lanes are open there. So that's good news. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
I noticed coming over the GWB that Easy Pass is working.
Well, of course it will.
Of course.
Can't skate on that one.
Thank you, Joe. Check in with you a little bit.
Let's go now on the phone. Someone with the New Jersey Transit, Janet Hines, joins us on the phone. Good morning, Janet.
Good morning.
All right, tell the situation. Obviously, no subway service. What's the situation with buses this morning?
Well, actually, we do have a reduced Saturday schedule on our Northeast Corridor and North Jersey Coastline trains. However, with our buses, we only have limited service available on some of our North Jersey and New York commuter buses. What we're doing is we're trying to urge customers only to travel if they absolutely must. What's happened is because we had to use so many of our crews and all of our available equipment to help passengers stranded by the power outage, it's going to take some time to restore our normal service. So we're saying to those who must travel, we're advising them to allow for some additional time to get to and from their final destinations.
Janet, two things. One is, could you turn the volume on your television down? It will help us hear you a little better.
Okay.
And the second thing is, Joe Nolan just spoke to the fact that the last 2 weeks of August have a light volume of traffic. He specifically said that today would have been extremely light. I'm curious, as far as New Jersey Transit goes and the buses, would that also have had a... Are you still there, Janet? We lost Janet.
Doesn't sound like it.
We'll get back to her in just a minute. She turned down the television sound, and we lost the phone. But we will get back to Janet Hines talking about the latest with New Jersey Transit. And once again, we hear what we've heard from so many other officials is that if you don't have to go out, if you don't have to come into the city, if you don't have to go to work, stay home, let everyone fix the various situations that have come up from the blackout so they can get back to a normal schedule and all will go smoothly.
Right. Let's go back out to NJ Burkett, who's on the Upper West Side with the latest on what's going on right now. NJ?
And after a little more than 12 hours, as John Del Giorno said, the lights are beginning to come back on in pockets of Midtown Manhattan. Overnight, more than 24 people, we're told, have been arrested for looting. Those incidents, according to the NYPD, appear to be isolated outbreaks, and for the most part, the city has remained remarkably quiet overnight. But vast sections of the city are still without power at this hour. Looters took to the streets in some neighborhoods overnight, and after more than 8 hours of darkness, America's largest police force was stretched to the limit. Across the city, New Yorkers abandoned their sweltering apartments and partied into the night on street corners and neighborhood bars. And this was the scene outside Penn Station, where hundreds of commuters simply gave up on getting home. It began at 4:10 Thursday afternoon, a chain reaction power failure that swept the Northeast. Office workers poured into the streets, traffic lights went out, and gridlock gripped Manhattan. How would you describe traffic in the city right now?
Chaos. Complete chaos.
Subways stopped dead in their tracks, and thousands were stranded underground. They inched their way along the walls, staggering blindly through the tunnels in total darkness. They relied on pen lights, lighters, even the light from our TV camera.
So it was just a really terrible experience for me. I never want to go through nothing like this again. I'm all shaken up. I just want to get home and hug my family.
Con Ed's power grid is managed from this war room on the west side. And after more than 12 hours, the cause of the blackout was still not clear.
I am asking that question. New Yorkers are, and I'm confident we're going to work until we get the answers to it.
At one point, the FAA suspended air traffic into and out of New York City. But the 911 system held up under enormous strain. And so did New Yorkers. People like Pamela Vitale, who joined her neighbors in Tribeca, directing traffic.
Do you know anything about directing traffic?
No, it's just trying to help the neighborhood because it's just a little too chaotic here and people are crazy. They don't pay attention to anything. So we're just trying to do our bit.
And New Yorkers really have made the best of an awful situation. As I said a moment ago, power is beginning to come back on in pockets across the metropolitan area, specifically pockets of Queens, Staten Island, the Bronx, and now Manhattan, specifically Midtown Manhattan. Overnight power has also come back on in parts of New Jersey and Long Island. Live on the Upper West Side, NJ Burkett, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
All right, NJ, thank you.
And we talked about some power being restored in Midtown. Let's take a shot right now of something that is fairly familiar to us in Midtown. It is the Money Magazine digital clock showing Time and temperature, 4:48.
One more sign of things
Yes.
coming back to life. In fact, John Del Giorno, as you said, showed us when a section of Manhattan had come back to life as well. It was 4:17, so we're making pretty good progress
Yeah, and
here.
he said that was a pretty big grid that all went on. So that he said some of these office buildings, like all the lights just came on immediately. So it's making
as
progress.
people had left them when they scurried out shortly after 4 o'clock yesterday or
Of course, if
5.
you're in your house, they're telling you make sure you turn off all your major appliances. But if you were in your office, most people just got out. They're not going to go back and turn everything off. So that's something that they're going to be really concerned about as they start turning power back on, is the impact it will have when it does come back on.
All right, let's step back outside now. Go to Lee Goldberg, who's been telling us that at 6:06, that's the bewitching hour when we're finally going to see the sunrise, but then also we're going to get quite a little heat wave at 92 degrees later in the day. Let's go back to Lee. Lee.
Laura, about 78 minutes here and counting, 6:06, and within about a half hour to 40 minutes, we'll start to see the hint of first light coming up. It is humid outside. I mean, it's relatively comfortable compared to what it was yesterday afternoon when the power went out, but yet we are on a second 90-degree day. We are headed there, and we have humid conditions coupled with that heat, and it's going to make it very uncomfortable. So obviously, the sooner the better the power comes on. Now, I have temperatures across the area this morning, which are ranging in the low and middle 70s. We have some upper 70s as well. The humidity is moderate at this point, and again, that sunrise at 6:06, and then temperatures will start to skyrocket. Now, looking at the planner, you can see how our temperatures are going to react through the day to the hazy sunshine. The humidity is going to be pumped up as we go through the mid-morning and afternoon, and it looks like that 88 at noon will start to feel like lower 90s, and by the time we get into the mid and late afternoon, these low 90s will feel like 95 to 100 degrees. That would be that heat index, that feel-like reading. We can go into our forecast, and I'll tell you exactly what's happening over the next 24 to 36 hours. Our temperatures today are going to work to about 92. We're going to have lots of sunshine. It's going to be hot and humid. And again, that heat index this afternoon is going to be right around 100 degrees. And the air quality will likely get unhealthy as well. 76 tonight, partly cloudy, warm, and sticking. For tomorrow, it looks like we're going to have a shot at establishing our second heat wave of 2003. With a high temperature of 90, we'll look for a partly sunny day through early afternoon, and anytime after probably 2 o'clock, there will be some thunderstorms that will usher in some more comfortable air by tomorrow night, but hopefully this outage is long gone by then. As we go through the second part of the weekend, clouds will be slow to clear on Sunday, and then some drier air is going to try to work in for the beginning of the upcoming work week. In terms of the severity of this heat, I mean, we certainly had much hotter stretches last summer. This is only our second heat wave of 2003. The first couple weeks of August, not much demand there, with temperatures only hovering around normal to below normal. This was really our first little spike in the month of August, and yesterday was our first 90-degree day. So it'll be interesting to see whether this outage was weather-related and if with that much stress on our power. But certainly we're going into a hot day today, and you really have to take it slow. In terms of the comfort index, I would say that you're going to start feeling uncomfortable in terms of the heat coupled with the sunshine and humidity after about 8 or 9 o'clock, when the temperature starts to go above 80, 90, and the sun starts beating down on you as you're walking around. Right now, still dark. We're once again on Columbus Avenue outside our Upper West Side studios. Things very dark right now. Got a 3/4 moon that's lighting things up nicely, and as we've been showing you, the GW Bridge now illuminated. I drove in from the Hudson Valley, and it was really just unbelievable. It was so dark all the way in, like driving through country roads all the way in, and then on the streets of Manhattan. Volume starting to pick up out here on Columbus Avenue as well as folks start to get ready for more traffic coming in. And we'll keep updating you on the weather conditions and tell you what the temperatures are doing. But now we're basically looking at about 76, 75 minutes until that sun comes up, that long-awaited sunrise. Back to you guys.
It was one of those days when you were using your high beams, weren't you?
No question.
Coming in. All right.
All the way in.
Thank you, Lee.
We have some new information to update you with. All of Staten Island has power. This is the very latest information from OEM. Also, Bay Ridge, Brooklyn has power. 93,000 people in that borough are online, so that is good news.
All right. In addition, a section of Manhattan has power, as we saw, at least one big block of it from John Del Giorno. In fact, 6,100 people there are back online. Total number of Con Ed has power 819,000 of 3 million total customers. Still a sizable chunk, and the rest will eventually, they're kind of certainly working on it.
Let's go to Kimberly Richardson now. She's in Washington Heights, and she's been talking to people there about how they are dealing with the blackout. Kimberly.
Well, I'm at 170th and Edgecombe near the 33rd Precinct, where police tell me everything's been pretty quiet here in Washington Heights. They're operating on backup generators. They said they've been pretty much getting routine calls all night, and they're holding over all of their officers because of this situation. Now, we've heard and reported that lights are coming on in other parts of the city, but up here in Washington Heights, it's still dark.
It's the hum in the night providing power to Kennedy Radio Dispatcher. Drivers at the Washington Heights car service put on the portable generator when the lights went off.
The company's closed because we have power here.
The radios aren't working?
No.
Not far away on 180th Street, little Chanel and her 15-month-old friend Arlen are sound asleep now, but it was a rough night for the toddlers. Arlen just had open-heart surgery a month ago. Her mother is watching her closely. Chanel needs a nebulizer to breathe. She has asthma and must have her medication every 4 hours. When the power went out, her mother found our news van, and we were able to give her an outlet to plug in the nebulizer. Does it worry you to be in this situation out here with no electricity and so forth?
If the truck wasn't here, then I would be worried, you know, because you guys have been there for me. But other than that, you know, I have all the kids, but as far as they're concerned, they're fine because they're with me.
Now, these are some of the folks hanging out in High Bridge Park, of course, because of the electricity or the lack of it. These apartments are hot, no fans, no electricity, so they're just cooling out in the park. And again, the police here at the 33rd Precinct say it's been quiet up here in Washington Heights, just some routine calls. For now, we're live in Washington Heights. Kimberly Richardson, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. You know, even NJ talked about some of the sporadic looting here and there, but overall, it has been extremely calm overnight.
And any looting that did take place, the police were right there in time to take care of it.
Made arrests and moved on. So.
Right. Well, let's continue talking about transportation, of course, for everyone. And the subways, we know the situation at LIRR as well as Metro North. There's going to be some service on New Jersey Transit for the morning rush. We heard Leslie Gottlieb talking about that.
Right. Rail service will be sporadic at best, so a lot of commuters are going to be depending on the ferry if they do choose to try and come into the city today. Jen Maxwell joins us now in Weehawken with details. Jen?
And that's right, Lisa. They are telling people today not to go into New York City if it is not absolutely necessary. But if you are going to go into New York, the ferry is probably a good option from New Jersey because it is one of the only mass transit options that will be running on or close to schedule. Now, we're going to show you something that's really indicative of what's been going on in New Jersey all day. Right behind me here, you can see all those lights on. That's Jersey City. And Jersey City, Weehawken, Hoboken, a lot of communities along the Hudson today did have power for the majority of the time. Most people didn't. Now, when we pan across the Hudson, you see the contrast there. That's lower Manhattan. Now, a lot of the lights are off there, although it does look better than it did when we arrived here just about 1 hour ago. But again, the story here in New Jersey today has really been the sporadic power from block to block, from town to town. Some people have power and some people don't. And in fact, in Hackensack earlier, or rather last evening, some people got power back and then lost it again, something called a rolling blackout. Now, traffic in New Jersey today is expected to be as bad as it was last night, and it certainly was bad. Traffic is supposed to be especially bad at the Hudson River crossings, the GW, the Lincoln, and the Holland Tunnel. It won't be much better on New Jersey Transit. They are running a reduced Saturday schedule. There are 4 lines not running at all today, the Maine, Bergen, Montclair, and Pascack Valley lines. But chances are most people will pay attention to the advice that so many people have given us since this blackout occurred, and that is if you don't have to go to work today, stay home, have a 3-day weekend, and enjoy it. Lori and Lisa, back to you.
All right. Sounds like great advice. Like I said, I don't know. I mean, my husband went home early this morning. I said, don't even think about coming back into the city to go to work.
And you know, this is a vacation day for me.
I know.
And I'm supposed to be flying out to Florida, but all indications are I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to...
I mean, anything coming in can land at the 3 major airports, but nothing is taking off. So
exactly.
I think you may be stuck.
So there's no place I'd rather be than right here. All right. Let's go to Jim Hoffer now, who we're talking to... Oh, all right. We want to bring you up to date, though, because we do have something from the Office of Emergency Management. Apparently now all Staten Island has power, which is good news, of course. And Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, we understand, has power as well. In fact, 93,000 people in that borough are now online.
Let's go to Newscopter 7. John Del Giorno, where are you right now? Looks like a pretty big traffic backup.
Well, it's funny. We were just going to tell you about the Brooklyn Power, some of it coming back on, but let me just show you what we're looking at here. This is the 14th Street approach to the Holland Tunnel, actually over in Jersey City, and this caught our eye. This was a convoy of 18 ambulances that came around the New Jersey Turnpike and have now parked outside of the gas stations here on the way into the Holland Tunnel. Of course, these gas stations are still blacked out, and it looks like authorities have set up some kind of a mobilization point here, but again, 18 ambulances just standing by, making sure that everybody is cared for. Now, we're going to swing the camera around to the left. Let's show you Staten Island. Of course, we reported that first here on Eyewitness News this morning on our way out, that Staten Island was back online. The top of your screen, as you look straight ahead, that is Staten Island, and the lights are clearly on. We'll go across the Verrazano Bridge, which is now lit up, and into Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and we reported that this morning as well on Eyewitness News. Bay Ridge as far north as Sunset Park, and now as far east as Borough Park, down through Bensonhurst. We have all those new viewers this morning to watch us on Eyewitness News. However, the eastern portions of Brooklyn, Flatbush, Midwood, out towards Aqueduct Raceway, those are still without power. And finally, in the top of your screen, that thin strip that you see, that's Southern Queens, that's the Rockaways. You can see the lights are back on down there as well. We'll continue to bring you updates through the morning. For now, live over New York, John Del Giorno, ABC 7, Eyewitness News.
All right, thanks so much, John. That's certainly encouraging. Every time we see a new section with lights on, that's very good
It's
indeed.
a very good sign. All right, that at least wraps up the first hour of our special coverage of Eyewitness News this morning. Big thanks to Lisa Calgarassi for being my teammate here. Coming up next, the old fellow steps in. Steve Bartlestein's waiting. We'll see you in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
This is the news leader, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Looking at a live shot of the city as we begin day 2 of the massive power outage. Millions throughout the area are still without electricity, and our coverage begins now.
Also, subway service has been canceled indefinitely. We'll help you get where you need to go, but just the best advice, stay at home.
And if you're watching us from home, guess what? You're one of the lucky ones. Thousands of people remain stranded in the city and elsewhere, finding a spot, nudging somebody wherever they can. Good morning. I'm Lori Stokes.
And I'm Steve Bartlestein. How are you?
Great.
Great vacation, right?
Yeah, it's off to a great start.
Wow.
It's all right, though. Where were you? I heard you were phoning in
Yeah,
yesterday?
I was where I moved down to Battery Park City and looking down onto the Hudson River there, and I could see all the ferries doing all of their work, and we had a